That's right. Mighty companions, well, this is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. And we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be really talking about the two choices and the two voices. And we're going to talk about time and eternity and what that is and how do we use that. In other words, it's all about how do we make the choices that give us the kind of peace and love that we say we want to have. And how do we get past that? So we're going to start out with our theme song, which is, I am not a victim of the world I see. I am not a victim. You are not a victim. I am not a victim. You are 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 not a victim of the world you see. Here we go. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my pa. I'm not a victim of events and circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I done to me. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. Listen to the lyrics on this. Of the world I see. You're not a victim of the world you see. Cause what's happening now is what I done to me. And that includes the wonderful things that are done to you. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Guess what? You need not believe the ideas. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. I'm not a victim of the North. I'm not a victim of the South. I'm not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I done to me. Yes, yes. Not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim now of the world I see. Now let yourself hear this. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. And others may seem to be quite startling. Some of the ideas may seem to be quite startling. Some of the ideas may seem to be quite startling. Some of the ideas, some of the ideas, some of the ideas, Some of the ideas may seem quite startling. 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 Some of the ideas may seem to be quite startling. And some of the ideas may seem to be quite startling. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas will startle you. Some of the ideas, I'm not kidding now. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe, and some of the ideas you may find quite startling. I know sometimes I feel like a flight attendant on the plane when you start giving all the directions and everybody just doing everything. They heard it for a million times, you know. But I want you to realize that if you would keep these attitudes, the Course in Miracles would be a heck of a lot easier for you to benefit through. That's why I keep saying them every week. Because the truth of something doesn't depend on your belief. The truth of something doesn't depend on your belief. And so the Course says, well, I'm going to tell you some things that are hard to believe. I'm going to tell you some things that might startle you. And I'm also going to tell you that I'm not asking you to judge the ideas at all. I'm not asking you to analyze the ideas at all. Then the Course says, you know, if you really want to know that it's true, do you really want to know if it's true? And then it says, well, if it's true, you'll know it because when you use the ideas, you'll see that it works. And so the ideas themselves will show you that the ideas are true. Standing off, you know, if you got a headache and looking at the aspirins won't get rid of the headache if you want to use that as an example. So what we need to realize is listening to this isn't the same as doing it. Listening to this is not the same as doing it. It's the instructions. It's the recipe book. It's telling you how to get that cake of love and happiness that you want. But I'm going to say this over and over again. If you think because you've listened to the Course in Miracles or any truth book, or you've gone to a workshop, or you've gone to a class, and just because you allowed yourself to listen to the instructions, that doesn't mean you've mastered it. It doesn't mean that your life is going to change. It does mean you've been given the way out. You've been given the way out. Whatever you're going through, you've been given the way out. And the Course in Miracles works on the most important thing of all, which is our perception, the way we see things, the way we interpret things. Because even if I've heard this a gazillion times, I still need to remember that how I'm feeling is coming from my interpretations. How I'm feeling is coming from how I'm interpreting what's going on in my life right now. What I feel about my life right now, and the people in my life right now, is coming from the meaning that I'm giving these people. It's coming from what I'm telling myself about it. But your wrong mind, your ego, is going to always tell you, try to change that person or that situation outside yourself so that you will be happy. And that is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong-minded. It will never give you lasting joy. So we're going to be on we're going to be in chapter 5, section 4, paragraph 3. And we got some books over here if you want to follow. But we got chapter 5, section 4, paragraph 3, in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. That's going to be on page 86 in the text. Page 86 in the text. Page 86 in the text. So the Course is trying to teach us the difference between time and eternity. And it's also, this is the chapter that most defines what the Holy Spirit is, what your loving right mind is, what your link to your source, God, is. It's called the Holy Spirit. The Course in Miracles talks constantly about leaving your problems and your concerns to the Holy Spirit, which is the divine God side of yourself. The Course in Miracles is not another book on trying to teach you how to handle everything by yourself on your own. It says you would resign as your own teacher if you were honest with yourself for 5 minutes about what's been the result of you trying to teach yourself and you trying to make yourself happy. So if you really gave it an honest appraisal, you would be so glad to resign from thinking that you're going to be the one that makes you happy, that you'll be so happy that there's some other part of you that can do a better job than you could possibly do. And so the Course is only talking about love and fear. So if you want to do a modern language translation of the Course in Miracles, all you have to do is substitute the words love or fear. For instance, Do you remember the kingdom always? Remember the kingdom always. Remember love always. And remember that you who are part of the kingdom cannot be lost. Remember that you who are part of love can never be lost. See the difference? The mind that was in you, in me, is in you. So the mind that is in the Jesus of the Course in Miracles, the truth consciousness, divine mind, that mind that is in any higher being, that mind is in you. Why is the same mind that was in any great master also in you? Because God, love, God, your creator, creates with perfect fairness. It wouldn't be fair for someone else to have some gifts from God that you don't have. It wouldn't be fair for other people to have access to love and joy and abundance and happiness, but you don't. So God creates with perfect fairness. So the same powerful mind that's in spirit, that's in God, that's in Jesus, that's in Buddha, that's in any great spiritual master is in you, because love, which created us, creates with perfect fairness, so everyone equally has all the gifts that God gives. Well, why don't I know it and my life sucks? Well, it's because you have the wrong perception of yourself. Remember I said that the Course works with your perception. You have a perception of yourself that's incorrect and that blocks the good that Spirit wants to give you. One of my favorite analogies is that you can go to the ocean with a teaspoon or a bucket. The ocean doesn't care. I say that again. You can go to the ocean with a teaspoon or a bucket. The ocean doesn't care. Some people go with buckets, and some people go with tubs, and then some people go to the ocean of life with little thimbles. And so you have as much abundance, love, and peace in your life as you are allowing through your consciousness and through your mind. You have as much happiness, love, peace, abundance, friendships, whatever it is. You are the one that either blocks that or allows that. That's a fact. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. So the Course says, so what does it say next? Well, it says, let the Holy Spirit remind you always of God's fairness. Okay, let's do the translation. Let the love remind you always of love's fairness. And let me, Jesus of the Course, your inner teacher, teach you how to share that fairness and that love with your brothers who are your equals. So let's hear it another way. Okay, so let love, your inner self, your higher self, remind you always that love is fair. And then let it teach you how to share it with your brothers. In the Course in Miracles, what does the Course in Miracles define? One definition of brother is your equal. Another definition of brother is a mind that is joined with your mind. So when it says brother, does it mean that it's not talking about men and women? It's not talking about a gender thing? That's exactly right. The Course is not talking about gender. So how else can the chance to claim it for yourself be given to you? What does that mean? If whatever I want to claim and have for myself, I've got to give. So whatever I give is what I'm serious about having, because whatever I give is what I'm going to receive. So really, what is asking? Well, asking from a spiritual perspective is not me saying, give me a book. Asking is whatever I share. Whatever I give, I'm asking for. If I'm giving everybody a hard time, I'm asking for a hard time. If I'm giving everyone peace, I'm asking for peace. So whatever, if I'm going off on you, I'm asking to have people going off on me in my life. I don't know when we're going to get that life is fair in the sense that you're always getting what you're truly asking for, but it may not seem like you're getting what you think you're asking for. So if you really want to know what you really wanted today, at the end of the day, look back on what happened, and then you can answer that question. That was what you really wanted. You might have said you wanted to go to the store, but you ended up at a movie. Well, that's what you really wanted. Whatever happens to you, the Course says at some level, it is what you are asking for, and you receive it as you have asked. Now, would people want to hear that who have a miserable experience? Of course they don't. So the more unhappy a person is, usually the less they want to hear you tell them the truth. Yeah. Because I want to blame my unhappiness on someone else. And any truth book is going to always get back to you are only experiencing the results of your own thinking. Any book that does not take you back to your consciousness and your thoughts of creating your perception and your reality, then you're not listening to the truth. You're not. Now, is that easy to hear all the time? Of course not. It's not easy to hear all the time because, most people don't want to believe that their thoughts have the power to manifest their experience. They don't want to believe that. Why? Because they got such crappy thoughts. If you're a negative, fearful, angry person that hates everybody and is mad at everything every other minute, the last thing you want to hear is a teaching telling you you're going to reap the results of those thoughts. You don't want to hear that. You want to think you want to think you can be as negative as you want to be all day, and it's not going to have any kind of effect on you. So the court says, yeah, you can do that, but it's going to make you think your thoughts are impotent. It's going to make you think your thoughts have no power if you think your thoughts have no effect. So in a way, yeah, you can think you're innocent and feel guilty because you're dogging somebody out or criticizing them and judging them, yet you think, well, it's just my thoughts. That's not going to have any effect on anything. So I can go ahead and have all these negative, fearful thoughts. But the truth is, everything that comes through you has an effect on you. So there's nothing you're thinking or saying that's not affecting you first. You always attack yourself first. You always love yourself first. You always give yourself good energy first. You don't give anything to anybody else first. Does that mean you don't ever give anything to anybody else? No, you give everything to somebody else second. You're never giving anything to someone else first. Whatever you give, you're giving it to someone else second. You always give to yourself first because what you give comes through you. So whatever you give has an effect on you first. Then the court says there are two voices that you have. Don't you know you have two voices? These two voices speak for two different interpretations, which is two different perceptions of the same thing. I could have one voice that look at these glasses and say, these are some great glasses. I really love these glasses. I appreciate these glasses. And then I could have another voice, oh, that's stupid. What are you wearing glasses like that for? That's crazy, So it's the same thing. It's glasses. But I got one voice telling me the glasses are cool and another voice telling me the glasses are crazy. So are the glasses neutral? Yes, the glasses are neutral. They're neither good nor bad. It's the meaning I give to the glasses. So that means that's true of every single thing in every area of your life. Are you aware that the course calls this the generalization of the transfer of truth? He says that one of the biggest breakthroughs that you'll have on the spiritual path one day is you will realize that you can apply these principles to anything that you're going through, the same principles, the same answers to anything that you're going through, and it will work for anything that you're going through. So that's what he calls the trend. In other words, if I'm giving these glasses the meaning that they have for me, I'm also giving the microphone all the meaning that it has for me. I'm giving you all the meaning you have for me. You're giving me all the meaning I have for you. So see, I transferred that to everything. And if I'm never upset for the reason I think, then if I think I'm upset about what somebody did to me yesterday, then I'm never upset about that for the reason I think. And if I think back to what happened to me with my father when I was a child and I get upset about it, I'm not upset about that for the reason I think. It says, I am never upset. But what about, did you hear the word never? Do you know what never means? Okay, it means you are, there is no exception. Remember in the truth, what is the most important rule to remember? The no exception rule. There is no exception to the truth. If I'm the one that's determining how I see things in one situation, I am the one determining how I see things in every situation in my life. A conscious being, you will never hear come out of a conscious being's mouth, you are making me mad. You are upsetting me. I need you to validate my value. No conscious being makes anything about their peace dependent on another person's actions or inactions. So every time you open your mouth up to tell somebody how they've hurt your feelings, you are not telling the truth. They did not hurt your feelings. You hurt your feelings by what you told yourself about what they said or did. Is everybody with me on this? Okay, because if we don't repeat this over and over again, we go back into sleep and unconsciousness. I don't try to say something new every week. I try to say the truth that we don't hear the rest of the week. Mm-hmm. You talk to 90%, and I find to me, you talk to 90%, especially if you're an average person, you talk to 90% of your friends and relatives, they ain't talking this. They're telling you everything and everybody that needs to be different in order for them to be happy. Exactly. That's what all regular people do. They get together and talk about how everybody else needs to change. And they think that's being conscious. It's so funny. So I'll say it again. How many voices? 2. What are they doing? They're speaking of different interpretations of whatever the same thing is. Okay? Almost at the same thing, at the same time. The Course says the truth is the part of you that's wrong always speaks first. The Course says the ego always speaks first. Whenever I see ego in the Course, I always say Earl. I name my ego Earl. You know what I'm saying? I think you need to name your ego. Name your ego your name. Okay, just try it. Okay, for instance, Earl does always speak first. Something comes up, I'm right on it, giving my interpretation of what I think it means, right? And then he says, now, alternate interpretations were unnecessary until the first interpretation was made. I made an interpretation of you that wasn't loving, so now we need an alternate interpretation. We need another interpretation because the first interpretation was made, and that was the interpretation that basically says you need to be different in order for me to be happy. I'm going to become relentlessly simple as a teacher, and it's going to drive those who need complexity crazy. Okay? I'm going to tell you that right now. Because complexity is an excuse for you not to do what you're being told. The night before they stone me, I always try to jam.
Great, Jesus.
Earl always speaks first. The ego always speaks first. The ego always speaks first. The ego always speaks first. The guilt, the angry, the stupid voice, the voice that doesn't know the truth always speaks first. Alternate interpretations were unnecessary until your first interpretation by your ego was made. First, Earl says what things mean, and Earl talks about what something is. He interprets his experience first. First, you interpret your experience, and you give yourself your opinions about your experience, and you tell yourself what's going on with other people. The ego speaks first. The wrong mind speaks first. The mind that thinks it's separate and a body always speaks first. Your programming always speaks first. Your habits, your conditioning always speaks first. Your conditioning always speaks first. Your conditioning, your programming, your patterns always speaks first. The voices from your childhood, they always speak first. They always speak first. What you learned in the past speaks first. Okay, everybody with me on that? Okay. I'm the divine repetition teacher. I had it, I was divine. Yeah. I could just say repetition teacher, but I'm the divine repetition teacher. Okay? I'm the remembering coach. That's how I identify myself. I'm for the people out there who want to remember it now. Okay?
I am beyond hope.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back and let's do the quick modern language translation. Okay, you need to remember that love. Remember love always. Remember your freedom always. Remember that you are part of love. You're part of God. You're part of the truth. So you can't be lost because you're part of everything. You know, we hiking together, it's a bunch of us, and you stay with us, and you don't separate yourself from us. You couldn't be lost because you are a part of the group. You are part of us. Okay? There's a mind in you that's just as powerful as the mind in any great mind. And God creates in fairness, so all of us equally have all the blessings of God. All of us have it. Some of us let ourselves have it. Some of us don't. So you need something to remind you that love is fair, that God is fair. And then you need something to do what else? To teach you to share it. Because whatever you share, you always have. But the course is talking about sharing thoughts and ideas. So every idea you share, you are increasing the strength of that idea in your mind. So every time you share a fearful, critical, angry thought, you are reinforcing your belief in fearful, critical, angry thoughts. If you want to keep something, share it. Now, what is it that most people feel very comfortable sharing? Their dissatisfaction, their anger, their upset, and their unhappiness. People will tell you what they're upset with you about a lot faster than they'll tell you what they appreciate you about. That's ridiculous, but you see it all the time. I'm mad about something, I'll set you straight. You've been beautiful and loving to me, I don't even say thank you. And the Course says you remember what you express. So if you're expressing a lot of anger, it'll look to you like you're angry all the time because you don't express any of the loving thoughts you have, so you forget you even have them. So when you look back over your life, it'll look like it was all bad. Same thing in a relationship. If all you do is criticize and judge your partner or your friend, then you're going to remember what you express quicker than the things you don't express. So when you think about that person, what will you just remember? You'll just remember more that you were upset with that person because that's what you expressed the most was your dissatisfaction. So even if they did wonderful things, you won't even remember them because you didn't open your friggin' mouth and say, I love you, I appreciate you. Thank you for doing what you've done for me. Say it. Don't just take it for granted. Well, of course I love you. I'm here. Have you ever had somebody say that to you? Of course I love you because I'm here, aren't I? Okay, but the minute you've done something in their perception that doesn't please them, then they'll give you the criticism and the judgment in 2 seconds, right? So the Course in Miracles is telling us, also, what else did that paragraph tell us? That you got to understand, you got 2 voices talking to you all the time about whatever it is you're experiencing or seeing. One voice is a voice you taught yourself based on your past experiences since you were a child. And the other voice is the voice given to you by the divine. Now, the reason why we don't listen to God's voice as quickly as we listen to our voice is because we're more partial to what we made than to what's been given to us. If I paint a painting, that painting is going to mean more to me than a painting you gave me. See, anything I make is going to have more meaning to me than something that's given to me. God is giving us love and giving us guidance and giving us help. We don't pay any attention to that because that's not something we made up. But when I make up my own ideas about what's going on, then I have a tendency to want to listen to that and give that more credence. Why? Because it was something I made. And we're always attentive of whatever we create. It's like if you give birth to a child and you see yourself as the parent and then you're protective of the child. Well, you're giving birth to thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. And so you're just as protective of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs as a mother would be with her child. That's called I want to be right more than I want to be happy. Yeah, most people want to be right. They want to be right. Now, what was the other thing I need to remember? That Earl speaks first. The ego speaks first. The programming speaks first. Okay, we together on that. Okay, then what are we supposed to do? Remember that. You're supposed to remember what? That if you was dealing with someone that really loved you, the first quality that they would have would be they would be fair. They would care as much about your welfare as they did about their own. Not more, as much. Because if you do it more, they're more than you fall into the sacrifice realm. Right. Where you're no longer getting what you want out of the situation, but it looks like everybody else is. And the person who wants you to put their happiness before yours, have you noticed that's the same person that has a tendency to say you're selfish? Isn't that really funny? You calling me selfish because I want to make my life dependent on what you want. Now, which one really sounds selfish when you really think about it? Okay, so would you be ready to go on to the next paragraph? Yes. All right. Now, the ego speaks in judgment. So how can you tell when you're dealing with the wrong part of the mind? Well, the wrong part of the mind, Earl, speaks in judgment. A person who thinks they're separate speaks in judgment. But now, see how it says, so that's the same as saying, we said we're going to make the modern language version. So that would be, fear speaks in judgment. The fearful mind speaks in judgment. the Holy Spirit reverses the fearful mind's decision. So love reverses fear's decisions. So decisions you make in fear, the part of you that loves you will reverse that decision. So whenever you are feeling afraid, somebody that loves you is helping you reverse the decision to be afraid. See, you can apply this to everything. So because it's teaching us how to tell the difference between a loving person and a fearful person. A person that's coming from sanity and truth in God, from a person who's coming from insanity, deceptions of the world, and fear. Because vision is knowing the results of your choice before you make it. That's what the Course defines vision, is knowing the results of the consequences before you take the action. You know, my vision tells me if I turn right on Colfax, I'll end up downtown. So I know the results of that decision before I even make it. That's what vision will do in every situation. If the Course is saying that the last few weeks, if you have guilt feelings, then you have wrong perception and you're listening to the wrong voice. So if you're feeling anger, guilt, and grievances, stop saying you're seeing things correctly because you're angry. Do you know that that's what most people do? But they feel the most correct when they're the most upset. Yeah. Actually, when you're the most upset, it's when you're seeing things the most incorrectly as far as your peace is concerned. All right? As far as your peace is concerned, you say, now you might have stolen the hubcaps out of my car, but I'm seeing it incorrectly if I give my peace away about it. It's not that you didn't take the hubcaps. I'm wrong in my interpretation of it because the interpretation of it that I'm giving myself is making me feel bad. So that's what the Course is saying. No matter what happens, I don't care how horrible it is, there's always another way of looking at it that could make you feel more peace about it. I don't care how horrible it is.
True that.
Right. If I have something horrible happen to me, I want to be able to look at that in a way that I can have the most peace. So in the Course it's saying that's always your goal, is to see things from a place of peace. So when it says you're wrong, it's not saying you're wrong necessarily about the physical event that occurred. Your wrongness is in interpreting it and looking at it in a way that you are hurting yourself and keeping yourself angry and upset about it. Are we clear about that? That's what it means when it says you're wrong. It's not the physical, because the only thing that happens in the world are events. All we're seeing all day long are events. This event happened, that event happened. They're just events. Now, you know they don't really mean anything. Then people go, well, what do you mean, Purdy? It doesn't mean anything. Well, someone stole my car means something to me, but it doesn't mean anything to the vast majority of people on the planet Earth. In both cases, my car was gone. That event happened. It didn't make anybody else break down in tears. So it doesn't have to make me break down in tears. So that's what we forget. You know, why am I breaking down in tears? It's my car. So what's really making it mean so much to me is the specialness of it. That car was special to me. What makes it special? It was my car. And what did Jesus say in the Course of Miracles? He said, well, you know, you will weep each time an idol falls. I love that line. How can you tell that you just believed in something or believed in a way that's not true? He said, because you're crying. He said, you will cry every time some way you're fooling yourself reveals itself. That's where your pain is coming. I thought she loved me. An idol fell. You know, and that's what an idol is. It's a false, he says, an idol is a false idea that you wish was true to the point you try to make it true in your mind, even if it's not true. He says that's what an illusion or an idol is. I know you don't really love me, but I want you to love me, so I'm going to tell myself you love me, even though you don't. That's me making you out of an idol. I am making my happiness dependent on you, and not only am I making my happiness dependent on you, I'm erroneously believing my happiness depends on you. That's the mistake. I say, I want to be a happy, loving person that's saying to another person, I want to share my happiness and love and joy with you. in a relationship with you. I'm not getting in the relationship with you because you're responsible for my happiness, love, and joy. Even though the Course says the purpose of a relationship is to make happy. That's a quote. And people go, what do you mean? Nobody can make you happy. He said make you happy. He said the purpose of a relationship is to make happy. Yeah. Not your ego. Okay. Why are you with me? We're with each other so that we can achieve happiness, and we can help each other experience happiness, and we can help each other get rid of the blocks to our happiness. And but originally I wanted to be with you because, wow, you have such a wonderful butt. I'll forget your mind because of your behind. I'm such a poet. I've had many a butt make me forget God. But then the Course in Miracles saved me because it had a Course in Miracles lesson that says, God is but love. And therefore so am I. So that helped me feel a lot more innocent. Remember it said, the wrong voice always speaks first. And I think it just happened. I think it just happened. I could just see Jesus of the Course sliding up next to me and saying, hey, Purdy, look at that butt. I don't think so, but Jesus would not make me feel guilty about it. Love would never make me feel guilty about it. See, that's what it is. Somebody that loves me may correct me or try to help me see something differently, but they're not going to try to increase my guilt and fear. See, this book is telling me how to tell the difference between when I'm getting ready to make another mistake. I say, what'd you say? It tells you when you it's trying to give you some vision, right? So he says, the Holy Spirit reverses the ego's decisions, much as a higher court has the power to reverse a lower court's decision in this world. So you'll get to the point on your spiritual path, you'll think something fearful, negative, and wrong for your happiness, and your right mind will reverse that decision immediately. You're saying something that could hurt you. You're trying to do something that could hurt you. I'm going to overrule you now, and I'm going to reverse that decision. And I'm going to give you the love that you deserve, even when you think you don't deserve it. I'm going to give you the love you deserve, even if you think you don't deserve it. That's what love would do. It would give you what you deserved, even if you didn't think you deserved it. The fearful mind only gives you what it thinks you deserve based on its own interpretations of values. Right? See, I'm not that generous. I still will pick and choose as to who I'm going to share with and who I'm going to give to. So that's not real love. But it is helping me practice giving. So I am moving in the right direction. I might not be giving to everybody yet, but at least I'm giving to one or two people. That's the way it starts. But true love, we give all things equally, right? So the Course says, well, that's why people don't like to hear the truth, because they don't see how they can do that on their own. See, I don't know how I can love everybody equally. That seems beyond my capacity at this point. So therefore, I would need help to be taught how to do that. So the ego doesn't like things that it cannot think it can do all on its own. Because if you focus on things that you don't know how to do, then you're going to have to be open to help and guidance and assistance. You're going to have to be willing to go beyond your perception. And that's why many people fight any kind of knowledge, because that's the nature of it. It's beyond what they know. And they want to stay within the realm of what they know. So the Course says a fearful mind, an ego mind, a person that doesn't know the truth, they raise control to predominance. An ego person, a fearful person, a regular person is much more interested in controlling things than loving things. A fearful person, an angry person, a separate from God person is more interested in trying to manipulate and control others than to give and love to them. So they're looking for relationships with people they can control. Because they think if I can control you, I can feel safe with you. If I can put limits on you, then I'll feel safe with you. And then at the point I feel safe with you, I can give you my love. Because I'm not going to do that without feeling safe. Well, how am I going to feel safe unless you do things exactly the way I want you to? Then, even though I won't feel safe then, I'll pretend I will. So what you should do is try to hook up with a person with equal limitations. is what I would do. If I still know I'm working on my jealousy and I haven't learned how to go beyond it yet, but I want to, then I would rather form a relationship with somebody else who's in a similar state of mind so we can understand each other, number one, and then we could work on that together. But if I'm full of jealousy and insecurity and I meet a woman who is full of confidence and safety, so therefore she extends and expresses herself and does what she wants to do with herself, then that's going to threaten me as a jealous, insecure Earl. So when you're asking for people who are way more together than you are, in a sense, you're just asking to increase your own fear and insecurity. You know, if I was hanging out with Jesus, I'd have an inferiority complex.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If he's walking water, and the best I can do to walk water is to stand in a puddle. I'm walking water too, see? So you're going to get to the point that every time you make a wrong decision in terms of your peace, your right mind is going to automatically correct it without you even having to stop and try to figure out how to make that happen. Okay? Then it says the ego's decisions, it's so that you don't have to ever wonder if your decision is separate from God or right. Well, the Course says, no, the ego is always wrong. A mind that thinks it's separate from God, thinks it's a body, thinks it's afraid, believes in sin, thinks it's guilty, thinks it's born and dies one day. A mind that projects on everybody else, everything that is going through, that part of the mind, its decisions are wrong. And wrong how often? Always. Why? Because those decisions are based on the error that the decisions were made to uphold. Those decisions are based on the error of thinking that you're separate from God. And everything you do from a decision of being separate, the Course says is wrong. Let's say in other words, if I made all my decisions based on the idea that the earth was flat, wouldn't all those decisions based on that be wrong? See, if the basic error is wrong, and then you do everything based on that, then all the decisions and choices you make are also wrong. So if I think I'm separate from God, if I think I'm guilty, if I think I'm a body, every decision I make is going to be wrong. If you think you're only a human being only, then you don't make right decisions and right choices, because if you're making decisions based on the idea that you're a chicken, then every decision you make is thinking you're a chicken is going to be wrong. So do you know the Course is saying the same thing to us? Every decision you make from the perception that you are separate in a body is wrong. Every time you make a decision based on the idea that you're a man or a woman, you're wrong. Every time you make a decision based on the idea that you are a body, he's saying you are wrong. That's like you making decisions based on the idea that you are a chicken. You are not a chicken. And when you're hanging out with chickens, you're going to feel inadequate, because they'll be laying eggs left and right, and you won't. Well, you could be laying a few eggs, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, right? When you're going to feel like you're not enough. You go, well, why can't I lay an egg? Well, you're not a freaking chicken. How do you know? Well, isn't it hard trying to lay an egg? Then that's what the Course is saying. Why do you think your life is so difficult? You're not what you think you are. You're not a human being. You have a human being expression of yourself. It's one of the ways you are seeing yourself. It's one of the ways you expressing yourself is as a human being. But you know you must not be one. Then the mind says, well, why? You're too unhappy. Your unhappiness is not consistent. You're worrying about how you're going to make it. You're worrying about, can anybody love me? You don't feel fulfilled in your life. Of course, I couldn't feel fulfilled if I thought I was a chicken and I couldn't do no chicken stuff. So you are gods. You are spiritual beings. You are mind. You are consciousness. You create through thought. So you can't do anything alone. The book has already said, you can't succeed at one single thing you try to do all by yourself and in anger and attack. So as long as you think you're separate, every decision you make will be wrong. That's why he says our happiness doesn't last. Because the system is set up where if it's not based on love, it will not last. Which is beautiful. I'm glad none of the fear, anger, guilt, and hate and separation that we are coming up with is going to last. If we had a nuclear war tomorrow, in 55 million years from now, Earth would have been regenerated into a whole new thing that would still be chugging right on along without us.
That's right.
That's what we don't get. You know, it's like we're not destroying the Earth, we're destroying ourselves.
Right. Yep.
The Earth is going to be okay.
Yes.
It's on the timeline that's much greater than mine. I'm like a firefly, right? You know, they think about, you know, it used to freak me out when I was a kid and I would hear about these I forgot what you call them, but they would be like under the ground for 17 years, and then once every 17 years, these bugs or whatever they were would come out. I forgot what they called them. Yeah, cicadas or something. Locusts, some kind of locust, right? And so, but then they had one day, and they were done. And then you would go, wow, that's a trip. Their whole life lasted from beginning to end. But then as you get to be my age, all of a sudden you realize your life is exactly like that. That the number of years that we live is nothing. Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, summer would seem like it lasted 3 years. Yeah. And I couldn't wait to get back to school. I was like, this is the longest summer. It's May. Right. And I just said Happy New Year. Yeah. So when your body gets the age that my body is, that's alarming. Yeah. If you think you are a body. Because that's like saying I'm in the fourth quarter of my own game. So you think I got time to argue with people or try to change for people or listen to people trying to criticize and judge me and I got to be different in order? That's one thing about when you reach a certain level of body years, you just kind of look at people like they're insane when they want to get you caught up in the stuff you used to waste years. I used to waste years on relationships, going back and forth. Yeah. If you were different, I'd be happy. No, 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 if you were different, I'd be happy. And that's what all arguments among couples and friends are. That's it. That's all you're hearing all the time with people who are upset about anything. They're going, if you were different, I'd be happy. If you spoke differently, I'd be happy. If you acted differently, I'd be happy. And as you get older and you mature, hopefully in your consciousness, you realize that's a big distraction and a big waste of energy, and you're actually using your relationship to distract you from your spiritual awakening and happiness. Instead of using your relationships to bring you happiness, you're using them to delay your happiness because you still have convinced yourself that your happiness depends on being with another body, and it depends on that body not only being another body for my happiness, it's got to also act out my script. Yeah. Wow. It ain't enough that you just be with me. You got to do what I want you to do. So the Course is saying, if you'll get to the point one day when you make a wrong choice in a relationship, your right mind will kick in and correct that immediately. That's going to happen. Nothing the ego perceives is interpreted correctly. So let's say it another way. Nothing a fearful mind perceives is interpreted correctly. Nothing an angry mind perceives is interpreted correctly. Nothing a mind that thinks it's separate, the ego, is interpreted or perceived correctly. So not only am I always wrong by thinking I'm just a separate guy named Earl Purdy, nothing that I'm not perceiving it correctly. And I know for sure I'm not perceiving something correctly when I'm upset. That's too simple. Because if you're upset all the time, you'd have to admit you're wrong all the time. And the average person doesn't ever want to think they're wrong all the time. I got to be right sometime. No. You're miserable. You're always wrong. Sorry, you're miserable. You're never right. And you don't ever want to be right and miserable, by the way. Okay, that's a good thing. So if you're wrong about your life and everything in it right now because you're unhappy, it's a good thing. That means there is a solution, there is a way out. But if you were doing everything right and miserable, where do you go? You're already doing it right. What else can you do but do it right? So you don't ever want to be right and miserable. Then the next thing the Course says, not only does the ego cite scripture for its purpose. There are plenty of people who are fearful, who see themselves, some of them as born-again Christians, who cite scripture in such a way as to make you feel afraid, not enough, sinful, bad, guilty. So the ego mind will cite the Bible for its purposes, justification for condemning people. He says, but the ego even interprets scripture as a witness for itself. What does that mean? That the ego interpret scripture as a witness to our separation. There are the people that's going to make it and the people that's not. The people that's really spiritual and the people. So I'm still about separation. I'm still about using the truth for separation. The Bible is fearful, is a fearful thing in the ego's judgment. So for a fearful mind, the Bible is a fearful thing. What is the Course saying? And there are a lot of people who think the Bible is fearful. Now, those who believe that the Bible is fearful of those who are separate from love, because love never makes fear. Well, there's no such thing as love containing fear. Love doesn't contain fear. Love doesn't contain fear. There is no fear in love. There is no guilt in love. There is no anger in love. There is no sickness in love. There is no lack in love. There is no conflict in love. There is no separation in love. The Course is saying, you all do not know how to tell the difference between what is really love and what is not. And you need to learn the difference. And you are the last one that needs to teach yourself what it is. Because you're the one that spoke first and chose, you gave them your phone. They didn't smack you down the ground and go inside your phone and steal your phone up. You showed them how to get in touch with you. So you are responsible for all your relationships. Do not say you're not responsible for all your relationships. You are. You're the one that chose it, but that's not something to feel bad about. You just chose it through your ego. Yes. And there's another way you could have chose it, and that's through the love for yourself. Because you get to the point, you'll love yourself so much, you just won't tolerate the things you used to tolerate.
There you go.
And you won't feel like you need to attack anybody to do it. You'll very calmly, very lovingly, very compassionately say, no. What? No. I'm not going to do that. I don't have to scream it at you. I don't have to yell it at you. I just have to mean it. Now, you can scream, you can shout, you can jump up and down, you can call me all kinds of names, but that's going to make me want to do it less. Because anyone that's attacking me and trying to make me feel guilty, the Course has already taught me that's your enemy. And I am not going to want to be in a relationship with my enemy. Unless I'm an enemy to myself. It's just that simple, but you need to be taught how to get to that point. And so the Course in Miracles says, perceiving the Bible is frightening, the ego or the fearful mind interprets the Bible in a fearful way. That's right. So many people come to spiritual classes that never want you to use the word God. Or don't you dare say the word Jesus. Or we can acknowledge all other spiritual masters from other religions all over the world. Nobody has a problem talking about, Lakshmi or Buddha or, you name it. But the minute you say Jesus, everybody be ready to freak out. And you know why? Because they're reacting to the meaning that they've learned to give to Jesus. You're not reacting to Jesus. You're reacting to your past programming about Jesus and about God. So when you hear the word God and you get all bent out of shape, it's not that the word God is the problem. It's what you learned about God. You're reacting to your learning. So don't throw the baby out with the bath water. Don't throw out the whole idea of God just because of your childhood misperceptions that you got about God. Because then you're not availing yourself to the help that's available to you because you are denying that it exists because of your own past programming. You're reacting to programming. When you read the Course and you see the Christian terminology or the masculine terminology and you feel immediate resistance, remember, you're responding to your interpretation of those words. And you're doing that in every area of your life. Because the truth is true in every situation. So I love how he says the perceiving the Bible is frightening, the ego interprets the Bible fearfully. I could say, Earl, perceiving the Bible is frightening, then Earl interprets the Bible fearfully and goes, oh, the Bible is saying some stuff that's really horrible. See, the Earl is the ego. Whatever your little personal name, inner little self, that is the ego, the you that thinks you're separate in a body. The Course is trying to tell you when it says love the child of God, get in touch with the child of God, it is not talking about love people's egos. It's not telling you to love my crappy behavior. It's not asking you to, I'm a horrible person, and this book is saying, well, love them. No, what this book is saying is you're not the horrible person. There's a you that is a totally loving being that you've lost sight of because you are now identifying with your own negative thoughts about yourself, and now you think that's you. And that's what you think is you. And the Course in Miracles is saying your concept of yourself is not you. And the ego is a concept of yourself. So when you tell me who you are, you're not really telling me who you are. You're telling me your latest concept of yourself. That's all you ever tell somebody. Why? Because 5 years from now, you're going to say that's not you. You're going to say the you were 10 years ago, you wouldn't even recognize today. Well, you're going to say the same thing about the one today. One day you're going to say this one wasn't you. So really, that's what the Course means when it says you're an illusion. It means your perception and concepts of yourself are not true. That's what being an illusion means. It's false. And how do you know your concept of yourself is not you? You have no permanent joy. You have no permanent happiness. You're worried about how you're going to make it. You think you're alone. You think you're going to die one day. That is your ego, not you. Wow. That's deep. But while you identify with your ego, this is not going to have any meaning to you what I'm saying, because you really think you are your body, and you are your little separate self, and you are your opinion of yourself. So you won't see this at first. You got to learn to separate yourself from your negative thoughts about yourself. It's a process. I'm just telling you the end game. I'm not saying you're going to be able to do it today because I told you. You know, you go to flight school, I'm saying one day you'll be able to fly. That's not saying the first day of flight school you're going to go out there and do a solo flight. Right? Readiness just means you have some potential to fly one day. I love how he says that. He said, readiness just means there's some potential to accomplish. I love how the Course says stuff, you know. But he says, the once you wake up to who you are, inventiveness is absolutely unnecessary. That there is no conscious being is trying to be inventive or ingenious. That's an ego quality. That if you are a creator, you don't need to be ingenious. You don't need to be inventive if you're a creator. Wow. So how do you know you're not who you think you are? By the unhappiness that you feel. That's how you know that whatever you're telling yourself about yourself isn't true. And if you're telling yourself something about yourself that's not true, that makes you feel bad, and you really want to feel bad because you think you're guilty and you think you're not enough, then you're going to form a partnership, friendship, love affair, or relationship with someone who's going to put you down. Because they are witnessing back to you what you believe about yourself. And you think the person that's treating you lovingly is lying. And you go, they got a game they're trying to run down on me. You know, anybody that would see me as wonderful is not a good judge of character. So the person that treats me bad, I'm going to be drawn to them because it seems like they're more honest. See, they're witnessing back what I believe. See the difference? Right? So if you want loving people to come into your life, the system is set up where you got to become one. Because it wouldn't be fair to the other person to just be there just to fix you. And that's their full-time job. But there's no joy that they are receiving? Right. That's not right. It's not right to put you on somebody else for them to make you feel better. That's not kind. That's not loving at all. Don't give anybody you. If you're not loving you, why in the heck you want to give you to me? Well, and the Course says that, you know, that the reason why people feel guilty in relationships is that they're trying to steal another person, Look, he says, steal another person to replace the one you don't like. So I'll get my worth from you. I'll steal it from you. But then I'm going to turn around and feel guilty. He says, well, why? He says, well, because I'm taking something of value, which I see as you, but I'm giving you something of very little worth. Me. Because I don't even like me. I don't think I'm enough. So then what happens? He said, well, then you turn around and you feel guilty. Because you know it's not fair to give them you if you're not trying to be loved. And that's why I said, yeah, we're working on ourselves. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. But by the same token, join with people of a similar alignment so that you all can progress toward love together. If I'm jealous and you're jealous, then we both are trying to work through the same thing, and it makes us more compassionate of each other. But if I never get jealous and you're freaking out all the time, all I'm going to start feeling towards you is resentment. Yeah, I'm going to leave you at home. Why? Because you're no fun. I don't know how to break it to you any more simple than that. You are no fun. I've seen couples where the husbands and the wives or people who are in relationships. I've seen many times in my life where the happiest I've ever seen them was when they're leaving their partner at home. They feel free. They go, oh, I feel more free going out without my partner. And I remember definitely feeling that. Like, oh my God, she decided to stay home. Oh, wow. I can have a good time now. Because usually the insecure person, listen to me now, usually the insecure person is making more out of everything than you are. They're usually making it like that if you're talking to somebody that it means more than it does. They're quiet because we were just told they have a distorted perception. They're in fear now. So they think they're going to lose. So they're watching you in terms of, am I going to lose? And he says, the minute you go into fear, you go into distorted perception. And when you go into distorted perception, you're not seeing anything correctly anymore. So if you're not seeing something correctly, doesn't it make sense you could make a mistake? Mm-hmm. Right? So the last line he says, and I love this, he says, being afraid, he says, perceiving the Bible as frightening, the fearful mind interprets the Bible fearfully. Being afraid, what do? You don't appeal to the higher court. I'm afraid and I think I'm sinful, I think I'm bad, or I think I'm guilty. I'm not going to appeal to God because I think that God's judgment is going to be against me. If I think I'm disobeying God, if I think I'm disobeying love, or if I think I'm not practicing any kind of truth, I'm not going to appeal to the higher court, which is the higher power, because I think even it's going to be against me. So the Course in Miracles is letting us know that those are just a few examples of how your ego's interpretation of things, your fearful mind's interpretation of things can be misleading. So I'm going to stop here and do a quick recap in just a second. I needed to hear that. That was very helpful for me to hear that. I try to make the Course in Miracles as practical as I can and not as abstract. Because if I can't apply something to my everyday life, personally it doesn't have any value to me. So for me to sit around with a lot of people just discussing spiritual principles while we leave the group and go right back out and do things just the way the world does, that doesn't impress me. Sitting around talking high and acting low. And Lord knows I have an ego. I have a self-concept. That's all it means. When it says you have an ego, it's just saying you have a self-concept of yourself. And also, I want to thank you for sharing with me, those who would like to make a financial expression of appreciation. As a full-time teacher, I really appreciate that. Go to my website, earlpurdy.com, P-U-R-D-Y, and you can do it there. Or you could use Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. I think that's it. And you just need my email address, and that's earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com. Earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com. Thank you. Those of you who would like to do deeper work, and you'd like to do deeper work with me, and you're ready to let go of some things and look at things in a new way, even if you've done it in the past with me, just like you're allowed to continue to grow and have new things to offer, I'm also the same way. So just because you may have had a session with me in the past, that doesn't mean you received the best that I have to give or the only thing that I have to give. And that's true for all of us. How do you like people judging you by who you were in the past? I've gone to people and wanted to ask for forgiveness because I see the error in my own ways. They still think I'm the same person I was 20 years ago. In their own mind, they still act, they ought to know I'm not the same person because I'm sitting there asking for forgiveness. Yeah. That in itself ought to let you know I must not be the same person because I'm saying let's have peace together, let's have love together, let's get past this. That in itself should let you know you're not dealing with the same. But the ego is so crazy that even though you're a different person saying I want to be loving and peaceful with you right now, it's still dealing with you as if you were the person 20 years ago that cussed them out or whatever you did. And they're overlooking who's right in front of their face. Yeah. It's crazy, but you see it all the time. So you'll get to the place on your spiritual path that you'll have no desire to be in relationships with crazy people.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it's like, yes. Oh, how do you do that, Earl? How do you do that? Well, you do that by not being so freaking crazy yourself. Well, how do I do that, Earl? It's through having a spiritual path that you're willing to follow and obey and study. Read the Course in Miracles, do the workbook lessons, repeat it to yourself. That's the way out. Attention and study. Attention and study. Attention and study. Learning and memory. The Course in Miracles says learning and memory go together. That you're not learning something that you don't remember. If you don't remember it, you're not learning it. If you don't remember it, you don't know it. If you don't remember the Course, you're not learning the Course. You haven't learned it yet. If you can't shut that book and say more than 2 or 3 things that whole book says, then you haven't learned it yet. And so you are innocent, but you need to still keep moving in that direction. If 30 minutes after you leave this class, you don't remember anything I said today, then that's your way of knowing. It's the remembering that's the most important thing. And that's not going to happen if you're not around people who never talk the truth and you never study it on your own. You're just going to be steadily fed the diet of fear that the world feeds everyone in order to keep separation going. There is a part of you, according to the Course, and a part of me that wants to be separate, different, and apart from everyone. And that wants to be treated better than everyone else. Or it believes it's less than everyone else. There's a part of you, he says, you want of you that wants to be more special than anybody else on earth. It's there. That's there. But there's another part of you that knows how to do absolutely consistent, positive, beautiful, unconditional love for everyone. And it already knows how. It's just that the Course is trying to teach us how to side with and give our attention to our right mind. But you have to learn how to do that. You have to have a teacher, and the Course calls that teacher the Holy Spirit, and that it's available to all of us if we will take the time to develop the relationship and to get rid of the blocks. So whatever you're going through, you don't have to go through it if it's negative and fearful. But you got to resign as your own teacher. Begin to entertain the idea that you could be wrong about the way you're seeing things, and that you're not alone. This possibility that you are not alone, and that you don't have. I had a person that wrote me one time to tell me how they really like me and they've really been listening to my classes and other spiritual teachers, but everything we're teaching, they're just lies. And it was like they were saying, I just want you, because I see your sincerity. So it wasn't like attack that way. It's like, I see your sincerity, but my life is horrible and nothing's going right. And they named about 20 things that were going wrong. And there was and so that meant that what I was saying wasn't true. That was so interesting to me because they had not been able to actualize it themselves. Then they wanted to say what I was doing was not true. It never dawned on them that maybe there's something they're not practicing or seeing. So if I had any insecurities about what I was teaching or the rightness of it from my heart, then I could have been impacted by that. But I didn't feel anything but compassion. I'm not going to stop doing what works for me because you haven't been able to work it for you. Because that's basically what you're saying. You haven't been able to work it for you. So since you haven't been able to work it, now that means that I should give it up. It's so funny. You haven't worked it, so I should give it up. But I wouldn't be insane enough to teach something going on 42 years that I saw no credibility. Then I really would be a stupid person. But give me like people ask me about astrology and other things. If you think that I would study something for 40 years that I had not seen any validity in, just you, like the Course says, the second coming of Christ is the return of our common sense. And I love that statement because we need to get back to common sense. My mother used to say to me, don't lose your common sense, boy. And you don't have to go to college to have common sense. If you destroy your environment, you're destroying yourself. That's common sense. If I'm angry and attacking everybody around me, why should I expect them to want to invite me to a party? You know, it's fun. Just use common sense. If you're not a friendly person and a pleasant person, then why are you shocked that nobody's coming up and talking to you at a party? So when I go to new places, the first thing I try to do is extend to the people rather than wait for them to come to me. I'm looking for who can I smile at, who can I make eye contact with, because I want to give what I want to receive. I'm going to give, because giving it is how you're asking for it. Whatever you give is what you're asking for. So if you want to have a clarity session with me and get rid of some stuff that you're tired of, and if you have had a clarity session with me, how often have you listened to the tape? How often have you listened to the recording that you did with me? Be honest with yourself. How often have you listened to it? Right, that's your ego. That's what the ego is. It's the part of us that tries to block any solutions, any help, any guidance that we get. And then it'll say, well, that didn't work. Well, did it not work or did you not work it? And you're innocent. And the universe is not going to punish you for not doing it. The universe could never punish you better than you could punish yourself. Nobody else is as interested in punishing you as you're interested in. I guarantee you that even the people I see as hard to get along with, I'm not spending almost none of my time thinking about them. And you aren't either. If you be honest with yourself, you are not thinking about other people nearly as much as you're thinking about yourself and your own life and how your own life is going. So all those people out there that you're so concerned about what they think, what other people think, they're not thinking about you. And that's not insulting. It's just that they're just like you. They're focused on their life. They're focused on their own lives. They're focusing on themselves, just like you are. So they're not going to bed saying, oh my God, did you see how short the skirt was that she had on today? You know, most of the things in the world, people just make passing comments about it and forget it 2 seconds later. It's our own desire for specialness that makes us think somebody's thinking about what you wore all day. That's my own desire to be special. That's why I want to get a relationship so somebody will care. Right? That's what the person is there for. To give me the specialness that God isn't giving me. To give me the specialness that other people are not giving me. That's what I want a relationship for. For specialness.
I like your shirt.
Yes, I like your shirt. Thank you. Sometimes I think I just had the deepest class, just radiating the truth to the best of my ability, and then the comment I get was, that's a great shirt. I was like, you didn't even know the deep stuff I was talking about. I thank you for liking my shirt, but really? I was talking about how you could get out of all the pain you're going through. Well, maybe my shirt helped. Maybe my shirt was part of that joy. And I'm glad that that's the case. I'm telling you.
At least you have a couple people that agree with you.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I'm siding with any loving thought that comes in my direction. But anyway, mighty companions.
I don't care what they are.
I'm so grateful to you. And if you just go to my website, you can sign up for a clarity session. You can self-book an appointment right there online to meet. I love you. I appreciate you. Since I've gone over some, I'm just going to stop here and let you know that we need to listen to this at least 4 times. Remember, 4 is the number of foundation. If you want to build something, it's repetition, repetition, because the Course in Miracles is working with your perception, which means it's working with your interpretations of things. And then it gives you new interpretations that you are supposed to use in every situation. That's how you change your mind. So, mighty companions, thank you, those of you who came here today. in your bodies and brought your bodies here so that you could hear, that you're using your bodies as communication devices, and they're very exceptional communication devices. So mighty companions, I love you. Please share this video. And remember that 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time on Sundays on the first Facebook Earl Purdy page. You can watch these live presentations. 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursdays. You can also have live Course in Miracles presentations. And I also put all of my classes on YouTube, Facebook. You also have them on my website. So there's lots of stuff you can listen to. And may the course be with you. Let's give it up for us. You all are ultimate blessings. So many ways. So many ways. Love you. Share the video. Love you.
You're so beautiful.